Most people believe that control comes from power, from loud voices, from threats, from authority. But the truth is, the most dangerous kind of control is completely silent. No shouting, no commands, no visible manipulation, just presence. And the strange part is, most people never even realize it's happening. This is the story of a man who mastered that silence. A man who could control a room without speaking a single word, and the dark psychological trick he used. A trick so subtle that even intelligent people fell into it without noticing. His name was Adrian Cole. Adrian was not rich. He wasn't famous. He wasn't physically intimidating. If you saw him on the street, you probably wouldn't look twice. Average height, plain black clothes, calm face, but there was something about him that made people uncomfortable, not because he looked dangerous, but because when Adrian looked at you, it felt like he could see everything. Your insecurities, your thoughts, your weaknesses. And strangely, people started changing their behavior around him without being told, without being asked, without even understanding why. The first time someone noticed this strange ability was during a small business meeting. 10 people were sitting around a table arguing. Voices were loud. Everyone wanted to dominate the conversation, interrupting, talking over each other, trying to prove they were the smartest person in the room. Then Adrian walked in. He didn't say hello. He didn't introduce himself. He simply walked to the table, sat down, and looked at everyone silently. Something strange happened. The room slowly became quiet. One by one, people stopped talking. No one knew why. It just happened. The loudest man in the room suddenly lowered his voice. Another person nervously adjusted his chair. Someone else avoided eye contact completely. And Adrian still hadn't spoken. Finally, after nearly 20 seconds of silence, someone asked him a question. "Do you have something to add?" Adrian looked at the man calmly, paused for a few seconds, and said only one sentence. "Continue." That was it. One word. But somehow the entire dynamic of the meeting had changed. From that moment forward, everyone kept looking at Adrian before speaking, waiting for his reaction, watching his eyes, trying to read his face. Without realizing it, they had given him control. And this is the first dark psychology principle he used. Silence creates psychological pressure. Humans are uncomfortable with silence. When a room becomes quiet, our brains immediately start searching for approval. We want someone to react, to speak, to break the tension. And the person who remains calm during that silence automatically becomes the center of psychological gravity. Adrian understood this better than anyone. But silence alone wasn't his real weapon. His real weapon was eye contact. Most people don't understand how powerful eye contact is. When two people talk, their eyes constantly move away, looking at the phone, looking around the room, looking anywhere except directly at the other person. Because holding eye contact for too long feels intense. It feels vulnerable. But Adrian did the opposite. When someone spoke to him, calm, unblinking, not aggressive, just steady. And when people experience that kind of eye contact, something strange happens in the brain. They start feeling exposed, as if their thoughts are being read. They become more careful with their words, more respectful, more obedient, without realizing why. But Adrian's most powerful trick wasn't silence. It wasn't eye contact. It was something far more subtle. He mastered something psychologists call social mirroring. Most people mirror each other naturally. When someone smiles, you smile. When someone crosses their arms, you eventually do the same. When someone leans forward, you lean forward too. It's a subconscious behavior that builds trust. Adrian used this in a much darker way. Instead of mirroring people, he made people mirror him. If he leaned back, eventually others leaned back too. If he spoke slowly, the entire room slowed their speech. If he stayed calm, everyone else lowered their emotional intensity. He became the emotional temperature of the room, and people adjusted themselves to match him. Not consciously, but automatically. Soon something interesting began happening. People started seeking Adrian's approval, not because he asked for it, but because he rarely gave reactions. When someone made a joke, Adrian didn't laugh. When someone presented an idea, Adrian didn't immediately praise it. He simply observed. And when humans don't receive reactions, their brain starts working harder to earn them. They talk more, explain more, try harder to impress, which means they reveal more information about themselves, their fears, their motivations, their weaknesses. And Adrian quietly collected all of it, like pieces of a puzzle. Then he used those pieces strategically. If someone was insecure, he gave them attention. If someone was arrogant, he ignored them. If someone was desperate for validation, he gave them just enough approval to keep them attached. Never too much, just enough. This created something extremely powerful. Psychological dependence. People started wanting Adrian in every meeting, every decision, every discussion. Because somehow, things felt more organized when he was there, more controlled. But no one could explain exactly why. He wasn't the boss. He wasn't the leader, yet people treated him like one. Then one day, someone finally asked him the question, how do you do it? How do you control people like this? Adrian smiled slightly and said something very strange. I don't control people. I just remove the chaos. And that sentence reveals the final dark psychology secret. Most people live in constant mental noise. They overthink, overtalk, overreact. But when someone enters the room who is calm, silent, observant, and emotionally stable, that person becomes an anchor, a center of gravity, and everyone else subconsciously orbits around them. Because the human brain naturally follows certainty, Adrian never forced control. He simply created an environment where people gave him control voluntarily, without commands, without threats, without manipulation they could see, just silence, eye contact, patience, and psychological understanding. So the next time you walk into a room, watch carefully. The person with the most power is rarely the loudest one. It's usually the quiet one, the one who speaks less, but observes everything. Because real control doesn't come from speaking. It comes from understanding human nature. And the people who master that can influence an entire room without saying a word.